This week on the Digital Coffee. At last. Well, maybe at last Instagram are going to let us trim our videos before we upload them into stories. TikTok? You are now able to upload to TikTok from the web. And how are younger people using social media? You'll find out after this. Good morning, and welcome to the Digital Coffee. This is your weekly dose of digital marketing and social media news for small business. Instagram are testing a trimming tool. So it's quite frustrating, isn't it, when you go to upload a story or create a story within Instagram and it's a video story. And at the beginning, maybe you were having a little think. So the beginning is you kind of going, and at the end, you kind of put down the camera at the same time that you were finishing recording and you have that little squiggle at the end. It's frustrating because you can't get rid of those little bits at the beginning and the end. So you end up abandoning it and shooting it again. Or if you're hardcore, you download it onto your phone and then you would use an editing tool to get rid of the beginning and the end and then upload it again to Instagram. It's frustrating. It looks like they are testing the option to trim your stories in app. And this is from our friend Jane Munchen Wong. She has seen this option to trim your Instagram stories at the beginning and end before you upload. Great news. I'm really excited about that. I think that particularly if you're a marketer, if you want your videos to look native on Instagram, I think you need to shoot them into Instagram because there's just a Gramish look about them. And this makes it so much easier to do that and still have that polished look to them. You can now upload to TikTok via the web. Now, I know I will always tell you, you probably don't need to be using TikTok yet as a marketer, unless it is totally on trend for your target market. But what surprises me about this news is we have only just had the option to upload to Instagram via the web. It took them a very long time to give us this as an option. And now TikTok, within, I don't know, is it a year old? The first year of being alive has given us this option, which is good news for creators because maybe you have your video on your desktop and this will make it a lot easier. It seems you have the same options as when you create on the app itself. But I also think it's bad news. I think it's bad news because marketers like me or social media managers will now be able to easily upload very polished videos to TikTok. I think there is a problem with these very polished videos. They really jar with people who are in the network. They can see straight away this isn't very TikTok-y. In fact, when TikTok started running ads, the first thing that they noticed was the ads that succeeded the most were the ones that really looked like they were part of the platform. So ones that inspired challenges, ones that were replicas of challenges that were going on, things that really looked like they belonged, things that featured influencers on the TikTok platform. So although for us it is a massive time saver, we have to ask ourselves, does this mean we are going to kill off TikTok? Us marketers, I'm going to include myself there, by flooding it with non-TikTok-y content. Is that just going to drive the younger people who are enjoying this network somewhere else? Facebook news is coming to Europe. It's been in the States, I'd say, for a couple of months now, but it's coming to Europe. What is Facebook news? Well, essentially, it's just going to be a tab on your Facebook that shows you news stories. And of course, Facebook have had an issue with news. In fact, they were the people that took the brunt of the criticism over the fake news that disrupted the American election last time round. And they have an election this year, so they're really cracking down. What this news tab is going to have is verified news publishers. You will need to apply as a news publisher to Facebook to appear in this news feed. And that's what they've started doing this week. They started putting the feelers out to some institutions in some countries, which includes Finland, Norway, Denmark and Sweden. So they're putting the feelers out for those people to apply to be in the newsfeed. And if they are, not only will they able to be putting stories in the newsfeed and a few other features, but they'll also be allowed to broadcast news via Messenger and WhatsApp, which is interesting because I've always thought one of the best uses of Facebook Messenger, which is maybe why I'm asking you, is that you could get your news stories, your newspaper, essentially through Messenger. I really like the idea of that. I think I may even pay for that. So I used to get the Wall Street Journal, but they've actually depleted that now. You don't get that. And I used to only get that, not because I was interested in the Wall Street Journal, but because it was one of the newspapers that was offering that option. So we are going to see a different way that our news is being delivered, which should make Facebook a friendlier place, which should mean people are on Facebook will be more interested in those real news stories. It's interesting. Facebook group moderators and admins can be a pain. Not my ones. My ones are brilliant. But if you've got a large group and you've got lots of moderators and admins, maybe you pay them, maybe you've incentivized them in some way to become a moderator and an admin in your group. But how do you know they're doing the work? Or how do you know which ones you could be rewarding for working so hard as a moderator or an admin in your group? That's what this update from Facebook this week addresses. It's within your group and it's a moderator panel that will actually show you how active, who are your top moderators. What you'll be able to see is for each moderator, the number of member requests approved, the number of the member requests declined, the number of posts that they've approved, the number of posts they've declined, and the number of posts they've removed. So that will be their activity. It will give you a really good idea of who's working hard within your group so that you can reward them. Or actually, if people don't have the time and they haven't told you, you'll be able to see quite clearly that they don't have the time and maybe remove them from the moderator panel temporarily. Obviously, by telling them first rather than just deleting them, because clearly if they're not able to spend the time on your group, you don't want to put them under that pressure. I think it's a great update from Facebook. How are people between the ages of 12 and 34 using social media? I think we think that young people spend way too long on social media, don't we? We imagine them sitting there just scrolling through their phones. Like we don't, looking at social media all day. They're not getting out and talking to people. They're not having real conversations. They're not forming real relationships. We worry about this. But actually, it seems we don't need to be as worried as we are. It turns out that actually there has been a decline in use recently, or even a levelling off of use recently of people between the ages of 12 and 34 on social. They've been born into this, and yet they are probably more responsible than us over 34-year-olds on social media. The study, which I'm going to show you, there's an article commenting on the study, and it's really fascinating, so I will put the link below. But what the study says is instead of using mass social media, they're actually using what they're calling campfire communities to form real proper relationships and real friendships with people. And the first community that they're using won't surprise you if you are a regular viewer of this show, is messaging communities, private messaging communities. And we've talked about this loads on the show. It was one of my predictions for 2020. So things like Messenger and WhatsApp that we've been talking about, and even that tool on Instagram where you can share only with your close friends. There's uptake on those private messages or group messages where it's more like a group of friends than mass broadcasting. That is becoming bigger. And actually there's been a few apps released by various companies to tap into this that I think it's going to be really worth investigating. So I'm going to go off and investigate them. If I like them, I'll tell you about them. The second type of campfire is what they're calling micro community campfires. And micro community campfires are things like Facebook groups. And this isn't necessarily for business. I've got a little bit of a tip at the end about how businesses can tap into these communities. But it's places, again, where a select group of people can get together and talk around a certain topic, or just a group of friends can get together and wall off that section from the rest of the public Facebook, the public social networks that they use. Apparently, one of the reasons behind this is, their parents are all over these social networks now. As soon as a new one pops up, they use it. So that they want a space where they can feel like they are themselves. They can be themselves and not have to broadcast a fake version of themselves, which I think is fascinating, isn't it? Don't we all want that? So for the micro community campfires, they're talking about Facebook groups. Reddit forums, in fact, have become quite popular for people to have conversations around specific topics. And something else that they pulled up was actually people choosing who to follow, which creators to follow on YouTube, which ones to subscribe to, and actually creating a digital TV station for themselves built around their interests and communities. We know now, I actually heard someone say that they had a kid who didn't like the TV because they couldn't choose what to subscribe to. And this is exactly it. You're able to customize your experience so much more online now. And finally, the third campfire is shared experience campfires. And I think this is one us as adults don't think of so much. I've been a little bit aware of it since I was asked to speak at a school a few years ago about social media. And actually a lot of the social media kids are using aren't your Facebook, your Twitter, your TikTok, your Instagram. They're shared experience communities. And the biggest example of that, you're going to know it when I say it, is Fortnite. So Fortnite is a game. But within that game, you can meet and communicate with your friends. It's a place where you not only play the game and have that shared experience, but you can also then have those real communications with people, which is interesting. And also Twitch, which is a live streaming platform where people basically live stream themselves playing games and doing a few other things like 24/7. And people, I actually love watching people playing video games because I'm rubbish at them. So sometimes watching them makes me a little bit better. So that is becoming a big trend as well. So for marketers, we need to know this information, right? We need to know this because this is where online communications, I don't even know if we call it social media, is heading in the future. So I pulled a quote from the article that I thought was really relevant to share with you, because it was written by someone much wiser than myself. And it says, don't simply replicate what you're doing on other platforms. It will come across as ham-fisted. Instead, pay close attention to the behaviour of the people in the campfire that you want to reach. Think about what value you can bring to them. Then get creative about your products and your messaging that you'll use to engage them. This swings back to my conversation earlier in the show about TikTok and uploading from the web. You can't make your stuff not fit into the place that you're posting, or whether it's a social network or a community. You need to become part of that social network or community yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to be dismissed by the members. TikTok have launched a tips channel. So you can now subscribe to this tips channel on TikTok, and within this channel they have got TikTok influencers to share important messages like stop looking at your phone and go out and enjoy life. And I used to be a child, we all used to be a child, and I am a little bit not sure whether this is going to work, because I remember the number of public service announcements we used to get when you were a kid, and they would get, like, they had Michelle from EastEnders when I was a kid. She got pregnant by Dirty Den, and they had her telling us how not to get pregnant. And basically you go, oh, this is just embarrassing. And I felt that same thing when I started watching these influencers sharing their public service announcements. They were fun and they were created in an interesting way, but still they were saying, don't do that. So will this account be successful? I do not know. I don't know how people are going to react to this. I can only go by what it was like when I was a child. These messages are important, but how do we put them across in a way that people will actually respond to? I'm not sure TikTok got it right. Do let me know what you think. If you get your Instagram account suspended, there's good news. Previously, if you got your account suspended, you had to go and jump through all these hoops. You had to Google stuff. You had to find the right page, the right form to fill in. You had to form it and appeal it. Now, if your account is suspended, or disabled is the word that they use, it's just because they consider that you have broken community standards a number of times. You can appeal this process. If you've done nothing wrong, it means you'll get your account back. I don't know how they originally suspend accounts. Is it automated, or is it machines, or is it people? But now it's a lot easier to get it back within the app. If you have your account disabled, now you'll get that on the login screen, and you get the option directly from the login screen to appeal it, which I think is great. So you'll be able to appeal straight away against it, and you'll get a judgment. It will be reviewed by real human beings, and in the end, either you'll get your account back if you've done nothing wrong, or sadly, if you have done something wrong, it will be deleted. But if it is going to be deleted, they still give you the option to download all your data, all your photographs and everything from there before it's deleted, so you won't lose everything. I guess the rule is don't break community standards, but sometimes it's very hard to understand what those community standards are. Instagram TV must have reached critical mass because this week they are launching ads. You will now get ads on IGTV, which you've just got used to watching it. You've just enjoyed it. They're going to spoil it with ads. But we knew it was coming, right? Nothing that Facebook or Instagram does isn't a place where they can have more space to place ads. The good news is if you're a creator, you will get revenue from this. You will get a percentage of the money that they earn from their ads. On Facebook, it's 55%. We don't know what it's going to be on Instagram yet, but we're guessing it will be something similar. So I suppose the good news for us is IGTV is now a thing. It's time to revisit it maybe. If Instagram is one of the prime channels you use, it's time to revisit it and maybe get creating on there. It has reached the point where there's enough people watching that they'll run ads. So it's time that you actually had content there too. Twitter are revising the way people respond to tweets. And this is exciting. Now when you post a tweet, or soon when you post a tweet, you will have the option to tell Twitter how you want people to respond. And there's several options that are going to come up. Let's put this on the screen. So the 4 options that they're talking about, although this may change, is your first option will be global, which is how you are at the moment. When you post a tweet and it's public, everyone and their cat can respond to that tweet. So that's going to be the default. But you can set it to group, and group will be only people you follow or people that you mention in the tweet. So it's a little bit safer. You're not going to get that troll coming along and commenting on your post and starting a big long argument and keeping you awake all night because of something mean that they said on Twitter. The third option will be a panel, and I like this one. It's just people you mention in the tweet. So if you mention a whole bunch of your friends in the tweet, you can have a proper conversation without getting interrupted by your mother's cat who's decided to jump into Twitter and start having a conversation. I really like this option. And finally, statement. I can see a lot of politicians using this one, right? Statement is when only you can reply to your tweets, so you'll still be able to create a thread, but nobody will be able to comment on it themselves. I don't think this one will be used quite so often, or you're not going to want to follow accounts maybe that just push out statements, but I do love that they put the control in here. And that is the end of a very busy Digital Coffee news show this week. I will be back, same bat time, same bat place next week. Until then, bye-bye.